Hello, America. Welcome to the Ben McCoy Show. Glad to have you on board. It's been a little while since our last show. It's been a busy couple of weeks in our life here in Southwest Virginia. A lot going on, and a little bit of a somber day today. Today is the day after the horrific Texas school shooting that happened in Uvalde, Texas, near San Antonio, where we are up to 19 children, 19 little babies dead. And so I felt it necessary to kind of devote the show to that today and kind of talk about all of the different things going on with that issue. Adrienne's actually here with me in the studio today.
Hi.
And she wants to share some of the things that she's thinking as well. So just want to kind of get into that topic. First of all, you can't even imagine the loss that these families are experiencing right now. It's beyond imagination. These are little 6, 7, and 8 year olds, or 7, 8, and 9 year olds. I can't remember. It's
7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9 year olds, just senselessly slaughtered by this psychotic idiot, 18-year-old moron who, who knows, wasn't given everything he ever wanted and had a little hissy fit, shot his grandmother, and decided he was going to go shoot up a school. You can't explain it. It's just, there are people in society who are just purely evil and have no conscience. And we have to figure out a way to address this issue. And there are a million different opinions on how that gets done. But one thing is for sure, you're not going to just press a button or make a piece of legislation and all these people disappear. They're going to exist and they're going to get guns. And this kid got guns legally. He had no record. He had no mental health record. He had no criminal record. He was just a normal, everyday, average 18-year-old kid as far as the law and society was concerned. And bought 2 guns on his 18th birthday, went home a couple days later, shot his grandmother, said, I'm going to go shoot up a school, and did exactly that. There is absolutely no law and no backstop that could have caught this kid. He did post on social media immediately prior to the incident that he was going to go shoot a school. We're talking 15, 20 minutes before it actually happened. There's not any mechanism out there that can respond fast enough. I mean, who knows how many followers he had on social media, that someone happened to be online right there, see the message. Oh my gosh, take it seriously. Immediately pick up the phone, 911. Yes, I saw this message. This guy said, that these things, all these moving parts to get the wheels in motion, it's going to take more than 15 or 20 minutes. And that's if every piece of the puzzle fell together exactly perfect. Once someone saw a message like that on social media. So it's just horrific. It's tragic and terrible. And there's nothing that could stop this from happening the way it did. Now, that leaves the question being, the only answer is to stop it in its tracks. I mean, because how are you going to, I guess not stop it, but prevent it is the word I should have used. There was no way to prevent that. And the only answer is how to stop it once it takes effect, once the wheels are in motion.
Can I say something?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I think there is a way to prevent it. In the future, I think it could have been prevented if they had taken precautions.
Well, the question is, what should those precautions be? Because this is a kid who had no criminal record, no mental health record, was a normal, everyday, average 18-year-old kid as far as the law is concerned. And it's legal in Texas anyway to go buy guns on your 18th birthday.
Yes, but there have been other school shootings, and since we're at that in that place now where that's happened now in this country multiple times, I think they could have taken precaution and had guards at the doors.
Okay, yeah, that's what you're saying. I see, and no, that's one of the possible solutions. Okay, we've got I don't know how many schools across the U.S. Do we arm? Do we put I think most schools today have at least one officer. They're called a resource officer. I mean, we did when we were in school.
We've seen that didn't work.
Yeah, the guy in my school was a joke. I can't see him doing much of anything if something like this were to happen. A lot of these resource officers aren't the best of the best.
I mean, we saw that didn't work with what school was it when the cop wasn't doing it?
Yeah, I think it was Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in Florida when that guy showed up. The cop ran and hid.
Yeah. One isn't enough is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and man, I mean, so do you have multiple? I mean,
yes, at every entrance. This is what I think. I mean, at every entrance. I also think it would be good to arm every teacher. Not that they'll have to use, not that it'll come down to where they'll have to use a gun, but if they were armed.
I think we need to have that option available. If a teacher, we shouldn't forcefully arm teachers, but if a teacher wants to be armed, I mean, look, everyday citizens that do other professions, plumbers and doctors, lawyers, electricians, have legal concealed carry permits right now all over the U.S. and people walk around and conduct their everyday lives carrying a gun on them legally and concealed, and just in case, for their own protection. And teachers are just another facet of society that go to work every day. Why can't they be you don't see a guy get. I guess I'm jumping around here. Some of the argument has been, oh my gosh, we can't have armed teachers around these little children. Imagine a teacher with a legal concealed carry permit and being armed, concealed, and going to work, and the students are just getting on her nerves that day, and she just can't take it and just takes out the gun and shoots up the whole classroom. I mean, this is the kind of argument the left comes up with. I've heard this argument. You may have heard it as well. This is one of the things this is the rebuttal to that idea. And it's absolutely ludicrous. I thought we were supposed to respect teachers, and teachers are these valiant warriors for truth and knowledge and all this. And I agree with that in a large part. But all of a sudden, if we arm teachers that want to be armed and have training, and have a legal concealed carry permit and all of that, they're mentally unstable and going to just shoot up the kid. I mean, and it's not a straw man argument. I have heard this argument more than once. I mean, probably a dozen times I've heard this argument about, oh my gosh, we can arm teachers. And so I give that argument no merit. If a teacher wants to be armed, has the proper training, is completely legal to be armed, concealed carry permit, all the rest. And we do need to consider precautions where a child can't procure the gun from the I mean, it needs to be on the teacher's person in a concealed fashion or in a fingerprint type of lockbox, activated lockbox, biometric box or something like, we can have that discussion. But the bigger issue is, should teachers be armed if they want to be to protect the classroom? I think we have to have that at this point. This particular case, look at what happened in this case. Okay, the gunman says, I'm going to go do this thing, shows up at the school, crashes his truck, jumps out. He's got 2 guns, at least, maybe 3. They're saying he had 2 rifles and possibly a handgun. There's actually video of him walking into the school. The school resource officer sees him coming with a rifle in his hand, immediately knows this isn't good, and engages the guy, draws his weapon at the doorway of the school, and gets shot in the leg and taken out of the fight. The guy runs in. He did drop his ammo bag due to the resource officer's engagement, so we have to give the officer credit for that. There was a lot less ammo that this guy had to work with once he got in the school because he did drop his ammo bag. But the resource officer was taken out right there in the doorway. He wasn't killed, but he was injured. And dropped, I don't know the details if he dropped his gun, whatever, but he was out of the fight. And the guy bust through the door, got into school, and he's in there, and there's absolutely no more resistance at that point. The one officer that could have stopped it is down and out of the fight. No more resistance. In this instance, he didn't walk down the hallway and pick off people. He barricaded himself in a busy classroom that was in session. He walked, it was just luck of the draw, saw the first classroom, went in the door. I think it was a 4th grade class. Teacher at the front of the class, students in each desk. Gunman bust through the door. I cannot imagine the terror and the fear these little children felt.
I know.
He goes in there and barricades himself in that classroom and starts shooting and killing little babies. Killed the teacher. Every child in that classroom was either killed or seriously injured, from my understanding. And I don't know if there were other people outside the classroom that he had shot before entering the classroom, or if he left the classroom at any point and shot other people. I'm not clear on the details, down to that, granular of details. But I know that he was barricaded in this classroom and shot and killed most of the children in there. And when the cops arrived and the Border Patrol tactical response team arrived, he was in this classroom. And what if that teacher, it sucks that we even have to have this discussion, but we can't bury our heads in the sand. This happened. There's no law that would have prevented it from happening. There's no way to prevent this kid from legally obtaining a firearm when he had when he looked good on paper. There was no reason to deny him firearms on his 18th birthday. Nobody had a crystal ball. Nobody could see what was going to happen. If there was any kind of mental, and we have they talk about universal background checks and mental health. We have all that. I've got guns. I had to pass all kinds of checks to get my guns, and they were they went through everything, especially, my concealed carry permit. Just buying guns is a little bit easier than getting a concealed carry permit. But anyway, there was nothing in the law that could have prevented this guy from getting these guns, because there was nothing on his record. So we have to plan for that event. And the only way is to have somebody there that is continual resistance against this gunman. If the teacher had been armed, and he didn't know the teacher's armed, as soon as he enters the doorway, teacher's well trained. Maybe nothing else changes, but at least we're hardening the soft target. At least he's got resistance, and it's not just easy picking. He knew once he walked in that door, man, it's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. And it was. These are not value. These are cowardly people, or they would go shoot up police stations if they weren't. They wouldn't go shoot up little babies in schools. These are the biggest cowards, the weakest people in our entire society are these school shooters. There is none weaker.
If they don't, excuse me.
Go ahead.
If they don't want to arm teachers, the other option would be, how somebody can have a bodyguard. Well, each classroom could have a guard at the door. Yeah. Or something.
Well, you got to pay for it, and maybe that's the answer. They could pay for it
then. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that would work. The taxes of that community are going to, go up because people have to pay for that. But they might be willing to do that. At least make the option available. Maybe some communities do that and some don't. I don't know how you work out all the little creases of something like that. But you can definitely put more than one officer in a school. You can definitely harden the entrances and exits. I don't know if that means metal detectors or what. We don't need to get into each little idea that could happen, but the fact is this was a school with unlocked entrances, only one officer who probably spends most of his days napping on the job. It was a small town, yeah. And you just don't go to work expecting anything like that to happen. The easiest job in that town was probably being that school's resource officer until yesterday.
And there's people that say it's the guns, get rid of the guns, but
it's clearly not the guns, because without the guns, this guy would still be shooting right now.
Well, I was just going to say that it's not a matter of it's the guns or anything like that, because guns don't shoot themselves. A person has to be pulling the trigger. It's not true that a gun can go off by itself. That's only in movies. Somebody has to be pulling the trigger for the gun to shoot. And it's not the guns. It's the person shooting the gun, which would be a criminal in this case. There are also people that shoot guns in defense to save their own life. If somebody's threatening their life, or if, like, say, a teacher was armed, they could save the children. They could shoot the gun and save the children. So you could also say the opposite, that the guns are the problem, but the opposite would be the guns save lives, because the teacher could have saved the lives of the children if she was harmed. And she could have saved her own life, I guess.
Yeah.
So instead of the guns are the problem, get rid of the guns. Guns save lives. Guns save lives.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the first thing you do when something like this happens is call the men with guns, because a gun is a tool, like a hammer. I mean, you can use a hammer to build a house for somebody who's homeless and has never owned their own home, and tears of joy and all that, or use a hammer to go hit people in the head. It's just a tool. And the left, the first thing they want to do is, we got to ban the guns. I mean, Beto O'Rourke, who's just one of the most honorless people in our society, who interrupted a press conference. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. I mean, what kind of slime ball do you have to be? They're holding a press conference in Texas where they're memorializing these little children, and the governor speaking, the mayor, and other community leaders, and Beto up there. Spotlight always has to be on him. He's up there grandstanding and wagging his finger about the guns, and how many more, and blah blah blah. I can't understand where you have to be mentally to think this way. If you take away all the guns, the criminals are going to find a way to get guns. They always do.
And then the innocent people won't have one to protect their life.
That's right.
Like in Switzerland, they have a very low crime rate, but just about every citizen, is it right, has a gun?
They're actually, they're required to have a gun in their home in Switzerland. It's actually a requirement of citizenship.
Okay, yeah, and they have a very low crime rate.
Yeah.
So it's the guns aren't the problem.
Yeah,
that's the point.
If it was the guns, everybody in Switzerland would be dead, and there would be no Switzerland, because it's the guns' fault. The guns would just sneak out of the closet and start shooting people on their own. Because everybody has one there. But yeah, like Adrienne said, very low crime rate. So it's clearly not the guns, and you've got people like Senator Chris Murphy, who's grandstanding. Some of these people on the left, I think they. I hate to say it, but I don't think they relish in the deaths of children, other than abortion, of course. But in something like this, but I think they kind of, somewhere inside them, they're a little bit happy that there's a tragedy like this that they can, use as a platform for one of their favorite pet topics, gun control, because they want all of us unarmed. And they don't think about the consequences of that, or the impact of that in society. They just want us unarmed. They want all of us unarmed. And that is they're not thinking of the children, and they say they are, and the innocent people of society. They just want disarmament across the board. Disarm, disarm, disarm. And so all the legal citizens are now disarmed. And the criminals still have access to guns. There's still a black market. There's still plenty of guns in society that nobody will ever track down every one of them and get rid of. If you outlawed every single gun in existence today, every firearm is now illegal across America. You're going to have a lot of law-abiding citizens no longer have access to firearms, but all those firearms are still out there. Every one of them's still there. All of the criminal enterprises out there, the gangs and the different mob outfits, and I don't know, the black market denizens out there all have their guns, and society just got a lot softer of targets for the criminal element. You now have unarmed victims everywhere, and it would be a bloodbath. I'm telling you. And it feels good. If you're on the left, it feels good to say, no more guns. We're tired of the violence. No more guns. No more guns. Because that's all they're not capable of thinking beyond anything emotionally. Everything's an emotional response. No more guns. Aren't you? Think of the poor children. No more guns. But there's no practical thought to any of it of what that would look like.
Also, I was going to say about that we wouldn't have these freedoms in this country if it weren't for guns.
That's right.
The soldiers who fought for our freedoms, soldiers who fought for our freedom, they had guns. They went to war with guns. That's the reason we're here and have freedom. That's the reason we're here in this free country now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we have freedom.
Yes, our liberty was bought with guns. Yeah, and guns protect our liberty. And you hate to see a tragedy like this, but you have to be able to think critically. Is it the gun or is it the person? It's clearly the person, because it was guns that stopped the person. It was this Border Patrol agent who had children of his own and a family and saw what was happening and rushed into the firefight, risking his own life to take this guy out and becoming a hero in the process. Of course, that's not why he did it. He did what needed to be done. This guy's in there and he's killing children, and he jumped into the line of fire and took out the gunman and put his own life at risk. And he could have been killed, and he knew he could have been killed, and he was willing to pay that price. Luckily, he wasn't killed, and we're glad of that. Mm-hmm. But he did it, and he would have given his life for that cause if it was necessary. And this was a man with a gun. And so it's because of a gun that there's not 19 plus whatever children dead. And 19 is 19 too many. I know that. Everybody can agree we don't want this to happen anymore. Left, right, indifferent, across the board. There's one area of agreement. If you're the hardest progressive or the most Reagan conservative right winger there is, you can come to an agreement that we do not want any more school shootings like this. I mean, unless you're one of the school shooters out there. The rest of us of normal society don't want this to happen anymore. But we have completely different ideas of how to get there, and the left always wants to focus on the guns. Beto yesterday railing about the NRA and even Biden. Oh, we got his clip. We got to play our illustrious president's remarks on this issue. Actually, let's get to that right now. You're gonna hear what our president has to say about this. And in the beginning, this is a man who can relate to loss. He's had loss in his life. And so he can relate on an emotional level to that. And that's a strong place for him to come from. And this was a great moment for him to shine. And when you see or hear his news conference, you can actually feel his emotion in that vein. And where it goes from there, though, is, well, just listen for yourself.
Good evening, fellow Americans. I had hoped when I became president, I would not have to do this again. Another massacre. Uvalde, Texas. An elementary school. Beautiful, innocent, second, third, fourth graders. And how many scores of little children who witness what happened see their friends die as if they're on a battlefield, for God's sake. They'll live with the rest of their lives. There's a lot we don't know yet. There's a lot we do know. The parents who will never see their child again, never have them jump in bed and cuddle with them. Parents who will never be the same. To lose a child is like having a piece of your soul ripped away. There's a hollowness in your chest. You feel like you're being sucked into it and never going to be able to get out. Suffocating. And it's never quite the same. It's a feeling shared by the siblings and the grandparents and the family members and the community that's left behind. Scripture says, Jill and I have talked about this in different contexts, in other contexts. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. So many crushed spirits. So tonight, I ask the nation to pray for them, give the parents and siblings the strength in the darkness they feel right now. As a nation, we have to ask, when in God's name are we going to stand up to the gun lobby?
And there it is. You could hear the tone shift, the feeling changed as Biden is talking about the loss a parent feels, the black hole in their chest. I mean, you can feel his emotion. I can't imagine what he or any other parent losing children has been through. He can really identify that on a unique level with these families. And that is a real moment for him to shine as a leader and as a president. And I would have been the first to give him credit had he kept it on that vein, which he should have, because he's, like I said, in a unique position. Most presidents, something like this happens and my heart goes out. They don't know. They don't know the depth of pain that it feels to lose a child. Joe Biden knows that pain. And nobody can take that away from him. And he could have kept it on that level and really identified with these families and been a source of, hope or something. At least somebody out there knows, what I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. And he couldn't help himself. And I give him credit. For the first bit of that whole piece of audio, I give him total credit. It was you could feel it. For the first time I've ever heard him speak in a way that wasn't emotionally shallow. It was emotionally real. And he deserves credit for that. You could feel his pain. And then here we go with the gun lobby. It's just a shame that he decided to go there, because he really, really did himself a disservice, because this was a shining moment for him. Mm-hmm. The first one ever as president, in my opinion, because he's just looked like a buffoon the entire time he's been in office. And it really had a good moment there yesterday and blew it with the how long in God's name, the gun lobby, in God's name, the NRA, in God's name. It's always God's name. He never invokes God's name any other time, but when there's a political issue to exploit. So, man, let's hear a little bit more of this and see where he goes with it.
When in God's name we do what we all know in our gut needs to be done. It's been 3,448 days, 10 years since I stood up at a high school in Connecticut, a grade school in Connecticut, where another gunman massacred 26 people, including 20 first graders at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Since then, there have been over 900 incidents of gunfires reported on school grounds. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Santa Fe High School in Texas. Oxford High School in Michigan. The list goes on, and the list grows when it includes mass shootings at places like movie theaters, houses of worship, as we saw just 10 days ago, the grocery store in Buffalo, New York. I am sick and tired of it. We have to act. And don't tell me we can't have an impact on this carnage.
See, we have to act, and I'm sick of it. Who's not sick of it? Who doesn't think we have to act? He's not getting specific as to what kind of actions he wants to see. his idea, because he said it many times before, is to go after the guns, punish the gun owners, guns, which is the left solution to everything, and it doesn't work. Universal background checks, well, that wouldn't have helped in this case. This young man did have to go through a background check to get that gun, those couple of guns he got, and he passed the background check because he had nothing on his record. There's not a gun solution to this. There's a people solution. Now, we have a mental health crisis in this country. If you want to talk about a legislative solution, you want to talk about society coming up with some kind of a solution, we need to address the mental health crisis. Because ever since the mental hospitals were emptied out in the late 80s, these types of problems have just slowly grown like a cancer in society, and we need to address that. We don't necessarily need to bring back the system that we had before that, certainly had some problems, but we need to address the mental health crisis that we have, because it is a crisis, and this was a guy in crisis, and the way he acted out was just beyond unacceptable and in pure evil. And I'm glad that he's dead and can hurt no others. But this could have. There's so many different things that, hindsight's always 20/20, but, there were some red flags. There were the 3 Facebook posts right before the incident that, you could argue one way or the other, could anything have been done, but there were some other red flags leading up to this, some other messages that he had left on social media in months and weeks before that weren't, it wasn't clear, I'm going to go kill people. It was just, a little disturbing. Maybe his family needed to pay more attention to that type of thing. I don't know. I'm not going to analyze this psychotic gunman, but I'm using him as an example of all the other times that we've had these types of things happen. There's always been some sort of red flags. There's always been something that we could have done as a society more that doesn't have anything to do with guns. Mm-hmm. And what that is, I don't know, but there are so many things that I think we could all agree on. Like, for one thing, hardening the soft targets of these schools with open, the doors are unlocked all day long. There's one little school resource officer who spends his days napping and doing who knows what else, because there's usually not a crisis to respond to. Maybe he's, I think they need more training. I think they need the best training that there is. I think this cop could have taken this guy out on the schoolhouse steps before anybody was killed, had he been trained very specifically for this type of response. What if you're sitting here and you're at the school entrance and you see a guy with long rifles walking up, dressed in some type of body armor. He did have a flak jacket on. They used the term body armor at first. He did not have body armor. He had a flak jacket. There's a lot of still openings to take someone down who has a flak jacket on, and a high enough caliber round will penetrate enough at least to take him out of the fight, if not kill him. So anyway, don't need to get into all the ballistics of it either. But I feel like with some better training, and I don't want to lay this at the feet of this cop. I can't imagine what he went through, having to be, the one piece of resistance in that moment. And who knows if I would have even performed had I been in that situation as well as he did. So I'm not judging him or anything like that. I'm looking at this from a grander societal perspective. Do we need to train these guys better? Yes, I think we do.
And it's sad we've gotten to this point, in this country. But since we have, that needs to happen, I think. Absolutely.
Yeah. And yeah, I think we can put at least 2 of these guys. Cops always respond to hairy situations with backup. I mean, this is the worst situation imaginable. They need backup. 2 guys dealing with this guy on the schoolhouse steps, I think would have been much more successful. And I think the body count would probably be next to 0 had there been 2 officers armed and ready to respond and trained for this exact situation. Seeing this guy walk up ready to do business, 2 officers trained for that. Yeah, I think it'd been next to 0, if not 0, on the body count. And it's just simple things like that I don't understand why we can't do this tomorrow, today. I don't understand.
Or yesterday. These things have been happening.
Yeah.
I just think it should have been done already.
Why do we need to politicize it? We don't want to see our babies slaughtered anymore by these psychos. And there's some really easy things. There's some complicated solutions we can talk about and debate about, but there's some really easy solutions we could implement right away. Let's do that and then work out the more touchy, situations about arming the teachers and things like that, which I think is a good idea. The left hates that idea, and, we can debate it, but we can certainly have more resource officers that are trained, highly, highly trained for that situation. There's been some talk of, what about retired cops and military people who have been in, retired military guys? That's a great idea. I mean, they've been overseas and had gunfire coming down range towards them many times, and they're ready for a fight. Mm-hmm. They're trained that way. These guys could be great to serve that purpose, and they would, most of them probably be very willing to do it, to protect. I mean, they went overseas to protect us. They would love to protect us here, I'm sure.
I think it has to be done now. I can't believe it hasn't been done already. And all I can think about is those families, those parents that had to wake up today.
Oh, God.
They had to go to sleep last night, if they could sleep. And when they woke up today, knowing they didn't have that child.
I know. I can't imagine. I just can't even imagine.
It's probably their first thought today.
Yeah, to not hear the laughter or the sounds of home that they've become accustomed to in their lives every day.
And when they woke up and they opened their eyes, the first thought was probably their child that they lost.
Yeah.
And they need to do this now. They need to do it. I mean, what are they waiting for is my question.
There's, the political... They want to use this as a political volleyball. There's too many people on the right and left. I mean, I think the left is more guilty of it, but there's people on the right that exploit this politically as well.
I don't care about any of that.
Yeah, we need to put all that aside and address the easy, simple, divisive issues like the school resource officers, hardening the entrances and that sort of thing to these schools.
And all you have to do is think about what you would feel if it was you and if it was your child.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't that make you want to do that? Just do it, is what I say.
Sure.
Just do it. Put guards at all the entrances and make the school safe. Make it so that when you take your kids to school, they are safe, that you don't have to worry about anything like that happening because these precautions have been taken.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to worry that something like that might happen because the precautions have been taken. You don't need to even think about it. So you can know your child will be coming home after school.
Exactly. And I mean, they're so focused. Like right now, the left is the Senate, Congress is focused on H.R. 8. They're using this tragedy to push support for H.R. 8, which is universal background checks for private gun sales and all that. Now, whichever way you come down on that issue, it would have done absolutely zilch, zero, nada to prevent this at all. This guy went through a background check, the necessary background check in the state of Texas to obtain a gun, and he had nothing on his record, nothing prior. It doesn't matter. You can talk H.R. 8 if you want, but it would have done nothing, and it's just a feel-good token issue to get more gun control for them to drill deeper into our everyday lives and take away more and more of our freedoms. That's what they're using these types of tragedies for. And it's not helpful. It doesn't prevent anything. It doesn't stop any tragedy from happening. It doesn't stop families from losing their children. It's just political grandstanding, and I'm sick of it. Somebody needs to take action. We need to write our congressmen and governors and senators and everybody else and demand that simple acts be taken. I mean, they talk about the cost of adding resource officers. I mean, come on. With the money they spend every day on nonsense, it's really not asking that much to put another $60,000 a year, whatever it is, $50,000. I don't know. These guys don't make a lot of money. resource officer in each school. You already got one. Just add one more. I mean, let's do that, and then let's make the entrances a little bit harder to get in and out of. Maybe there's a key tag or badge or something. You could debate metal detectors if that needs to be in every school. I don't know. Would a metal detector have stopped this guy? I doubt it. But I can tell you what, an electromagnetic key tag would have stopped him because he ain't getting in the door. A big heavy steel door that you got to tag in and out of to get it to open. He's got to find another way in the school, which buys time and allows the cops to respond and everything like that. I mean, these are just simple things we can do. And they cost money. Who cares? These are children we're talking about.
That's right. And I think it should be at the top of the list. Of anything that needs to be done about anything, any issue, this should be number one. Absolutely.
So it sucks that we have to have this discussion, that these things keep happening. The left keeps wanting to lay it at the feet of the NRA and everything like that. And it makes no sense. It's just, again, it's an emotional response that gets the intellectually shallow riled up. Yeah, the NRA, it's their fault. I mean, but when you put a little bit of thought into it, that makes no sense. The NRA isn't out there advocating for the rights of school shooters. They're advocating for the rights of everyday Americans who have the right to bear arms due to the Second Amendment that was given to us. If you don't like the Second Amendment, then go get rid of the Second Amendment. Congress, I mean, there's a way to do that. Why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they right now voting on the complete repeal of the Second Amendment? Because they know every one of them would be thrown out of Congress tomorrow. They already have the mechanisms to do what it is they want to do, but they don't have the guts to do it. So they want to blame it on everybody else, including the NRA. And I'm not a defender I'm a member of the NRA, but I haven't liked everything they've ever done or said. I've got my problems with the NRA. I'm not a defender of the NRA, but I know it's not the NRA's fault when they're out there defending the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms of people who legally can do so and have nothing to do with the rights of school shooters. They want them killed and stopped in their tracks as much as anybody else. None of us want that. And so the question remains how to get there. Anyway, I mean, that's really all I've got to say on the issue. Adrienne, you've had some good input here. Anything else?
I'm just, the only other thing I would say is I'm sorry to the people that lost their loved ones.
Yeah. How can you, I can't even imagine.
I think it was 2 teachers. There were 19 children and 2 teachers.
So far. Yeah, they're saying it could climb even higher. And I haven't even checked the latest numbers, since we have been recording the show. So, yeah, your heart breaks for these people. I mean, these are the most innocent of our society, our little children. And to be, just taken away, their lives senselessly stopped in their tracks, so full of life and energy. And you can't even imagine the loss. All you can do is pray for these people and just, be there, the ones around them, their community. Just be there for them to catch them when they fall, because there's nothing else you can do. It's just, the loss is unimaginable. Yes, we do pray that they will somehow find a way to move on with their lives. I mean, not forget their children or move on past the loss. I mean, be able to go on and live, with that loss. It's just, it's unimaginable. So yes, our heart breaks for them, and we pray for them, and hope that the Lord, brings some peace in whatever form He sees necessary. And He's in control. He knows what He's doing, and sometimes it doesn't make any sense to us. But man,
He doesn't.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I know He doesn't. He doesn't, quote, let things happen to people. I know that it's, it's hard not to ask why and wonder why He let things happen is what you want to ask.
Yeah.
But I know that he does not, he doesn't want those things to happen. He gives everybody free will, and everybody gets to make their own choices. And everybody's got a free will, so everybody gets to make their own choices. And some people, unfortunately, make the choice to kill and make the choice to do any other, things like that, and crimes and things. Some people make the right choices and are good people that make good choices, and other people make these choices. But my point is that I believe God doesn't want those things to happen, but that He's given everyone free will, and that's things happen in life, and that's just what things happen in life.
Right.
But that I just know that you can still turn to Him, and that the Bible says the Holy Spirit is the comforter and the helper.
Right.
And I just believe you can turn to Him for help. To ask Him to give you strength.
Yeah, there's people that use their power and their energy to give life every day, doctors and surgeons and people that come up with these great cures of different diseases and that devote their lives to helping others and giving life. And then there's people like this gunman who are worthless and have nothing to offer but to take life. And it's the same free will that each has chosen and has been given, which is a great gift, a gift of life or destruction. And you can't understand it, but it just is. Free will is a wonderful thing that we all have, that we are able to enjoy if we didn't have free will, we couldn't enjoy our lives. There would be nothing fulfilling. We would be robots basically without any feeling, and that's no way to live. But there's an ugly side of free will, and yesterday in Texas is proof of it. So, there's nothing you could say to fill the loss of these people. There's nothing except that God loves them and He's there for them. Yeah. And hopefully He heals their hearts, their broken spirits and broken hearts. And there's no other way I can put it. But and
you're not alone.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's listening to me that lost anyone, but if you are, you're not alone.
Yeah.
God is right there.
And He truly is the solution. I mean, you want to talk about the ultimate solution to these issues is God. We've done everything we can to take Him out of everything in society. And as we've made that maneuver, more and more of these types of tragedies and horrible incidents, society just goes further and further down the toilet. The more we remove God from everything and do it. I don't want whatever they call a religiously motivated form of government, theocracy. I just want a government where God isn't actively attacked and removed, where the First Amendment is fully allowed to thrive as it was intended. Taking prayer, out of schools and things like this. These were active campaigns to remove God, and it has worked in a lot of ways. God should be no part of government per se. He should not be on the chopping block. He should not be taken out of society. There should be a separation of church and state. And the left likes to use that phrase for their benefit, but what it means, essentially, the whole reason Jefferson came up with that phrase is because he didn't want the state attacking the church. It wasn't because he was worried about the church taking over the state, which is what the left would have you believe.
Right.
He did not want the state limiting the church. And that is where that phrase comes from, if you study it. And it's not found in the Declaration or the Constitution. It was in a letter that he wrote. And I do agree with it as a premise. I think it is an important premise. But you could directly correlate the removing God from society to society getting worse. And people would want to argue with that. That's fine. That's my opinion, and I stand by it.
Mine too.
And no, I don't want a theocracy. I don't want any kind of Christian version of the Islamic states with Sharia law and all that. I mean, that's absurd. I want our nation as intended, as founded, our constitutional republic, as founded, where God is allowed to thrive among the private populace and the way they see fit without being attacked. And we used to have a more moral and godly society, and it wasn't because government encouraged it or punished people who weren't. It's because they were allowed to worship and pray and perform and act as they please. And you just didn't see these types of horrendous acts that we see today. But that's the ultimate solution. But since that's not happening tomorrow, we have to think of more practical things like we've been trying to come up with to stop these sorts of things. And less guns isn't the issue, because when a school shooter walks into school, the first thing somebody with a phone does is call the men with guns. So we got to have guns. It's the only way to stop something like this in progress. But there are lots of other practical things we can do to make the targets a lot harder and protect our children. And that is where our focus needs to be right now.
Also, I had one more thing to say about our leaders. That's the ones that say guns are the problem. I mean, do they have bodyguards that have guns, or do they have their own gun at home? I mean, what's going
a lot
on?
of these high-profile politicians, and especially these Hollywood celebrities that rail on and on about the guns. I mean, they got 10 armed bodyguards standing right there around them. They live in these fenced-in mansions and with keypad entry and guards at the entrance. All this stuff to protect them with armed men.
It works.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good point. But they want the rest of us to be unarmed and,
helpless.
Yes, exactly. And meanwhile, our children are getting slaughtered. What if our children could go to school in the type of environment that these people live in, with their gates and their security and their armed men protecting them? Then maybe they would be protected too. So, yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of hypocrites out there that exploit this type of thing. But our hearts just go out to these people, and I mean, you can't imagine. And just we pray that God will bless them and give them peace and heal their broken hearts. And that's about all we got for today, folks. And we really appreciate you tuning in and listening. Please share the show with others. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Twitter, Facebook. You can always email the show, benmccoyshow@gmail.com. And just help spread the word. Let us know what you think and how you feel about it. And we really appreciate you out there. And we'll see you next time on the Ben McCoy Show. God bless.
Bye.